Hello and welcome to another All Nation Line video. Recently, Dylan Lambert came out with a new locomotive kit, which was the Lima switcher. And this kit, as it ships from Lima Locomotive Works, you can go to his website and order it, is not powered. It is a very nice kit, very well detailed, and it was suggested a number of months ago that we could try to implement and install the All Nation Line drives power transmissions in different configurations for this particular model, so it would be operational on the model layout. So this video is going to cover that process because we've come out with the kit to do the power, and you, the modeler, will be able to install this into Dylan's kit. It's quite straightforward. We've done all the engineering work and debugged various issues in terms of what needed clearances, and we think we have a very smooth working model now, and it should be very enjoyable not only to build Dylan's kit, but to also, when you're all finished, have a very nice switcher engine that will operate in various modes. So in other words, you could have it as just a dummy locomotive with the trucks under it, or you could make it a single power front truck transmission or dual drive. So in other words, there would be a transmission in the front and a transmission in the back to power this locomotive. So I hope you enjoy this series. We'll stitch these all together into one video here and give you a very good overview of how to go about not only buying the entire kit from us or just sourcing the parts. For example, if you already have a motor that you'd like to use, you could probably easily implement that if it's the right size, and just get our transmissions that would fit nicely into the body of that Lima switcher. Enjoy. So when you purchase the Lima switcher from Lambert Locomotive Works, you're going to basically get what you see in front of you, the engine body and a floor, two separate pieces, plus all the other parts, of course, the detail kit that goes with this, which we're not going to go into here. We're going to focus mainly on the floor, and we're going to get from this stage to this stage, where we have the All Nation transmissions in a dual powered locomotive for the cab end and the front end, and a 30mm motor centered on the deck there. So we're going to go through some of the steps to get to this point where we would just be able to pop the body over this, put the screws in it, and it's ready to run. Suffice it to mention, there will be a little bit of modification to be done on the floor as well as the body in order to install, whether you go single or dual power on this particular model. Now, the floor has already been 3D printed with the openings to accommodate the All Nation Line drives, and the kingpin hole locations are in the correct location. And when we get the actual engine body, the only thing we're really going to need to do on the engine body is to take these stringers out across here and all the way down, because otherwise they would interfere with trying to set this over your motor and your mechanism. If you're simply going to run a dummy engine with dummy trucks, you don't need to do that. That's primarily the only thing you need to do to the body. So in order to get to this stage of installation, we're going to first talk a little bit about the floor. In order to get the clearance that you need for the trucks under here, there's going to be a slight bit of machining or sanding to do to make this into what I call a fish belly, so that there's adequate clearance on the top of your gearboxes, and plus that your trucks will swing without touching anything under here on the layout. Now, the way I generally do that is take these little details off and then use a 1x30 belt sander and kind of draw my lines in here and eyeball it and just put that angle on there and then clean this up. Because technically, even if you're going to put dummy trucks on here, this girder box, as we call it, to accommodate, I suppose, added weight, if you want to put some weight in there, will interfere with your truck when it's going around a curve, because it's going to bump into here and here. So that actually needs to be material removed at that point. So the first thing I ran into was to figure out my center line here across and my center line down the length of the locomotive and get my motor mounted into the correct position. And what I developed was a template here that the modeler can easily go ahead and just set on top here. And the first thing you would need to do is to take a drill bit on these kingpin holes here and use a 1/8 inch bit and drill those out for the kingpin. Then I would overlay this template so that my kingpin holes align, and then I can mark my mounting holes for this particular motor that comes with our kit. Now, this motor is a Pitman, and I don't know, it's about 56 millimeters in length and 30 in diameter, and it just fits very nicely into the body. And so we developed the face plates for mounting the motor face plates on here, and then being able to mount the motor to the floor. And the motor is actually sunk into the girder box slightly to lower the shafts so they're more in line with our transmissions. But I found out that in order to verify my hole positions, because basically I'm going to lay that on here, take a pencil and lead pencil and mark my holes before I drill those. And these would be clearance holes for a 256, because we print the embedded nuts into these face plates here so that you can run a 256 screw up there and mount this right onto the deck or floor of the engine. So before drilling the holes, I actually made a cardboard template, placed it on here. I drilled my holes in the cardboard template, and then after I mount the face plates on the motor, I hold it up to a light and make sure my holes are perfectly aligned, so I know I'm not going to have any kind of offset, you might say, where the screw's going to give you trouble and you have to make the hole a little wider. Basically, the way this sits in here, it's going to be fairly square in terms of it's not going to be left or right, because it's sitting in the girder box there. So I would definitely make a cardboard template first and do the markings and check after you mount the face plates onto the motor. The next thing we're going to talk about are the transmissions themselves. So these are the all-nation line transmissions, and one of the issues we had, aside from having the clearance that we need on the gearboxes and especially on the underside of the floor, is the fact that there's less clearance on the cab end than there is on the front end, and that's due because with the kit, a floor ships with the body. You would, the modeler would have to install it. I put it in here just to show you an example, but this particular tower on the end, the height of it is shorter than the one on the front end, and therefore the clearance on the top of this tower here, it clears the floor, but the actual sprocket is still going to possibly rub on this edge of the floor, so the modeler might have to take a little bit of material off here, or take the material out and then put an electrical cabinet to hide it, but that's fairly trivial. In any event, we're showing the transmission here that's not mounted in the AAR Type A truck frame, and the position that this will have once the motor is mounted. You'll find that the drive shaft connected to the driven shaft on the tower is very much in alignment, but on the cab end it's slightly angled down, and we accommodate this with universal joints for connecting these up, which we'll show a little bit later. The transmissions are based on our original helix drive transmissions, and unfortunately the helix drive transmissions won't work because this floor is too thick and there's not enough clearance between the kingpin and the driven shaft on the upper transmission. And we've developed these upper drive shafts to be able to utilize universal joints and connect these up so that they're very stable in their operation and very quiet. I think the chain drive is more quiet than the helix gear, until the helix gears, of course, break in a little bit. But we do use the helix gears on other locomotives, and it's a preferential modeler thing, I guess, as to which one you would prefer to use in an engine. And these particular transmissions now all come apart. You can break these all down for servicing, short of popping the wheels off the axles, but if once these drives run for 40 or 50 years, you might need another shimmering in them somewhere to fine tune them up a little bit, but they pretty much will stand up to the wear and tear quite well. And I think once this is all installed, I don't believe you'll need to add any extra weight to the engine. It should be adequate. The trucks themselves, in particular this one here, I'm not showing the all-wheel pickup wires just yet on these, but we'll talk a little bit about wiring these up for two-rail operation. You'll note that we insulate on one side of each truck so that they won't short out through the wheels, and we of course wire it accordingly for two-rail operation. And what will happen is these trucks will simply mount. For instance, this one will mount in the front, and you can tell the front because there's two mounting holes for the engine body on the front, whereas in the cab there's four mounting holes to attach the body to the floor. And this will just slide right in like so. The kingpin will pop up through the hole once we drill it, and you'll be able to put a little C-clip on that kingpin, and you'd be ready to connect the drive shafts up with the universals. Now, in terms of wiring, we'll ship these trucks all assembled already into the side frames, and these side frames will have the wiper pickups already installed with the ST connectors or JTS connectors, 2-wire, for bringing power from the track through the wheels to the motor. And in order to tame this wiring mess, as I call it, which it seems like you encounter every time you are working on a locomotive sometimes, I've developed these little wire holders or mounts for connecting the wires, male, female, at this point, so it's easy to take the whole model apart without doing any soldering or unsoldering. And since we have plenty of real estate on these face plates, we have holes up in the upper corners where we're using a brass rod as a bus, and we have them threaded on both ends so that you can feed this through all the way through to the other end, and just attach your wires with a nut and a washer, and configure your wires coming from your transmissions or your trucks, and then simply take your motor leads, one on one side of the bus and one on the other. And I suppose you could solder them if you'd like, but I typically would mount them with behind a couple of nuts so that you can remove them easily, and you'll get good contact all the way through. These little brackets just mount with a 256 screws, 2 on each one, and again, it makes it convenient to control the wires, and those mounts will actually fit right in here, plenty of clearance under the universals, and control those wires from scraping up against anything while the engine is running. That's basically what you need to do to install these. It doesn't take too long to put all this together, and while we sell the single and dual drive in kit form with all the parts and universals and screws, you could actually source these individually. So if you have your own universals or you have your own motor and you want to implement that, you could do so without purchasing the entire kit, because like I say, we sell all this stuff separately, and spare parts, that kind of thing, if need be. And we'll finish up here by saying that it doesn't take a whole lot of skill to do this, since we've done a number of these and engineered all the problems that I initially encountered when we wanted to get this to be a well-running model. And so there's probably also adequate room between the motor and the underside of the body for mounting a decoder if you wanted to. Your only limitation is your inside body width, basically, which is a little over 30 millimeters to accommodate this. And so this fits nice and snug in the body, and the rest is up to you as far as detailing the kit, painting, decaling, that sort of thing. But it's a very doable project, and for the modeler that likes to do a lot of these things themselves and know how to put together and take it apart for servicing in the future, it's a great way to go. So I hope you enjoyed this video. We appreciate your feedback, and hopefully the hints and tips here make life easier to get this up and running on your layout as quickly as possible.